Today's episode is brought to you by Taft Law and its Franchise Advance program, a one-of-a-kind program developed by your host, Josh Brown, to help entrepreneurs assess, convert, and grow your business the right way through sound franchise structures. To learn more, go to taftlaw.com and type Franchise Advance Program in the search bar.
If you think like, act like, or are trying to grow like a franchise, then the Franchise Euphoria podcast is for you. Hello and welcome everybody. Josh Brown here, and I created this podcast for one main goal: to help people who are trying to grow their business through franchising or franchise-like structures to do it the right way. I've been practicing law now as a franchise lawyer for many, many years, and I've seen it done the right way and the wrong way. And this podcast is not filled with a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Rather, I talk with real people, people who have been there, have done it, are doing it right now. And I also dive deep into specific topics related to franchising. So if this is of interest to you, you are at the right place. Enjoy. Welcome back to Franchise Euphoria. I've got Bob Moore on the show today, the Vice President of Franchise Operations for United Water Restoration Group. United Water Restoration Group has provided water restoration services and reconstruction for the last 15 years and looks forward to future growth as it currently has, or is about to cross the 100-unit mark in terms of franchise location. Looking forward to talking to Bob today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing very, very well. Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, and then tell me about United Water Restoration Group, because candidly, I don't know much about it. So I'm looking forward to learning about it.
Awesome. So I've been in franchising forever, for about 30 years. I started with Domino's Pizza. I spent 13 years with that organization working for corporate and various franchise owners. And then the last 7 years, I was a multi-unit franchisee with them, owning multiple Domino's stores in the Chicagoland market. Ended up selling those stores and going to work for ServiceMaster out of California, running their West Coast operations there, and then went on to work for Dunkin' Brands for about a little over 10 years, where I oversaw about a third of the country for all things people and training related. So love the franchise business model, love helping entrepreneurs, achieve their dreams. And after I left Dunkin', I moved to Florida and ended up hooking up with these guys. And it's like working for a startup. The three companies I mentioned before are all 70 plus years old. And this one is a youngster in comparison, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah, so tell us about it. It's United Water Restoration Group. Obviously, it's not a. It doesn't serve donuts and coffee.
Right, exactly, right. So, so the founders of the company are from Hungary. They didn't know each other while they lived in Hungary, amazingly enough. They met when they came to the U.S. In 2008, they started with one van in Daytona Beach area, filled it up with equipment, went out, started knocking on doors, built it to, at one point, we had 15 locations across Florida. And then in 2015, they started franchising the concept. We had some slow growth in the beginning. I've been with the company for about 4 years. When I started, we had 5 franchisees. We currently have 27 and are looking forward to a great 2023. But we're a full-service restoration company handling the needs for both residential and commercial customers for, water damage, mold, fire, smoke, whatever the case might be.
So how does you go from a background, obviously, in food and that sort of area? What's that like going from there sort of into, this type of a service business? Now, granted, obviously, COVID comes about, and I got to imagine for this type of work, that probably helped business, it sounds like.
Yeah, actually, it did, interestingly enough. Well, and to clarify, too, this is actually my second go-around in restoration, because when I worked for ServiceMaster... Oh, that's right, ServiceMaster, yeah. I had 134 franchisees in my region that my team and I supported. The bulk of them and the bulk of our revenue came from restoration franchise. So it's my second go-around in that. But to your point about COVID, it was really interesting because, we had about a week or two where our corporate locations slowed down in Florida when it first hit the news, and it was all over in the news and people were really scared. But after a week or so, business picked back up to normal. In addition to all of our normal, water, mold, and fire smoke jobs we were doing, we also did a bunch of COVID cleaning as well to help businesses reopen after someone had tested positive. So it really was a really busy year at a time where a lot of other businesses were really hurt.
Now, I know you do residential and commercial. Is one a greater percentage than the other, or does it really just depend on where the franchisee is located?
It depends more on how long they've been in business, because commercial jobs can get really big really fast. So we like to start new franchisees out on residential jobs and let them, get their crew hired and do a lot of jobs, get them underneath their belt, get all their, make sure they're operating all of our systems properly and things like that. And then 6 to 9 months to a year after they open, we refocus them and they start doing some marketing to some commercial locations as well. Because at that point in time, they're up and going, they have their team established, and they're ready for growth. And because when you get a commercial job, it can be really large. And if they're just starting out, that one job might take up all the equipment that they have in their warehouse, whereas if they're a year into it, they can use that job often to buy more equipment or just rent equipment to get through the job. But they're really much better prepared for the commercial jobs at that point in time.
So you've been in franchising for 30 years or so, and you've obviously seen a lot of franchisees, some that work, some that don't work. And there's not really I would say there's not really a magic way to figure out who's gonna do well and who isn't. I've been in it for 17 years and I can't figure that one out. But who are the type of franchisees that you guys are looking for to bring on to United Water Restoration?
Sure, that's a great question. I am like yourself. I've given up trying to predict who's going to be most successful or who I think is going to have an edge because of their background or things like that. Because I look at our existing franchisees and we have people who came from the home services field or had their own business before and they're doing well. And then we have, Fortune 500 executives who've never owned their own small business before, never done anything like our type of work and are successful as well. So for me personally, I think it's people who are hungry and who want to really succeed is the crucial factor. What we do is not rocket science. We can teach it to people. And after you're in this business for a while, about 70 to 80% of the jobs seem to be very, very similar. After a while, you do have some very unique ones or very large ones. But a lot of what we do, when a pipe busts in a basement or something like that, it's going to be the same whether it's in Indiana or North Carolina or Atlanta, so the process is very, very similar. But it's just somebody who's hungry. And I'd say the one thing that we really focus in on to try and help our franchisees succeed is how to build a good team, how to build a good culture, because getting good employees is really hard. And if you aren't thinking about the culture of your company and, what makes you different and why somebody would come work for you as opposed to another company or field, I think you're going to have a hard go of it, regardless of what business you're in.
Yeah. So, it would seem to me, like you said, if you're in this business and you're just trying to do it as the owner operator and go to all these jobs, you're going to max yourself out very quickly. You're going to be at a job, then you get an emergency call, you can't make it there, so you lose the job. So it seems to me for this type of business, it's almost imperative, maybe not at the get-go, but pretty soon thereafter, you got to have people who are working with the owner operators.
Yeah, that's correct. And the good news is in our industry, you can find people who are already certified, who've been doing it for a while, and they just might not be happy with their existing company. So there are people out there that you can hire right from the get-go. Because we've had franchisees who've said to me, Bob, I honestly don't ever want to go out at that call at 2 a.m. I'm gonna come to the table with a little bit more working capital, and I'm gonna hire a team, and I'm gonna focus on building the business and not necessarily go out and do the work. And I've had other people who, who've said, I really want to learn every position, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time at each one to get to know that before I end up hiring people for them. So it's really up to the owner. We can tailor our support and their opening plan to really maximize what their business goals are and what they want to achieve in their respective business.
So what is it with United Water Restoration? I mean, what differentiates it from other restoration businesses?
That's a great question. I would say our culture. Our owners are still active. We still have corporate locations, so we still have 13 locations. We're still in the restoration business. We're not just out selling franchises. So when we get done our time today, I'll be walking across the street to our corporate headquarters and meeting with the owners who are over there working that business today. So we're still in the restoration business. We continue to learn. There's things that we learn corporately that we can share right away with our franchisees. And those guys are really good about picking my brain for, innovative things our franchisees are doing that they take back in their corporate location. So I say that was number one. And number two, they're just, the DNA of the company is it's about hustle. As I said, our owners run a multi-million-dollar corporate locations and they're over there working hard today. They're not, coming in 1 or 2 days a week. They're in here every day trying to build their company, trying to make sure I have the resources I need and are just hard at work. And that really comes through when prospects come and meet us and talk to us about, potentially signing on when they meet the owners and see, man, they're still here working their business too.
Yeah, talk to me about that a little bit more in terms of, one of the things that I've learned in my years in franchising, and I'd be curious your thoughts on it, whether you agree or disagree on it, is, there's two real important stages in franchising. There's many important aspects, but there's the initial stage where you bring on a franchisee, and as a franchisor, you really got to have your ducks in a row to be able to train them well, to be able to teach them the business, to be able to support them when they have questions, and to make them feel like they're part of a team when they need you at the beginning. And then there's a shift a little bit, 6 months, 8 months, a year into it, where these same franchisees, now they know how to run the business. And so whether it's consciously or subconsciously, they start asking themselves, what is the franchisor doing for me on a continuing basis going forward? So I think of those as two really important inflection points, because for a franchisor needs to have a very clear value proposition at the beginning, and then you need to have a very clear ongoing value proposition for franchisees going forward. So I'm curious, what that is with United Water Restoration. I mean, is it something, where, from a technology perspective, from an R&D perspective, from, training, whatever the case may be, this is a question that always comes up. And I think it's really important for franchisors to be able to answer.
Sure. That's a really great point that you raise. And for me and with United Water, I would say it comes down to two factors. One, still being in the restoration business. So there are unique ways to solve problems, right? Like I think the most successful small business owner, whether a franchisee or independent, they're just better at solving problems, right? They see opportunities and they find ways around things, and they can turn a challenging situation into an opportunity to grow. And I think our owners do that and do that well corporately. But then I also have a great team. I mean, I built a team of people who have been successful in the restoration space. I have a director of field marketing who's been in this business for 9 years as a field marketer, building restoration businesses as a marketer. I have a director of operations who's built 2 restoration businesses from the ground up, is self-taught in the industry. So they have done what we're asking franchisees to do. So that would be first. And then I think you have to add value. You have to continue to add value. As a business gets bigger, we continue to challenge our franchisees. We celebrate their successes, but we also ask them, are you where you're at right now? Are you happy with where you're at size-wise, or do you want to continue to grow? Do you have more appetite for growth? And if the answer to that is yes, then we come up with ways to support them. And a lot of that, going back to your original question of it's not, it's very different than pizza and donuts. I was challenged with the very same question when I interviewed with ServiceMaster. It said, you have no experience in restoration. What are you going to say to that franchisee? And I said, well, I have experience in business, and most of the time that comes down to either money or people. And most of your money problems tend to come back to people, so we focus a lot as our businesses grow on, are they set up in terms of the right structure? Do they have the right leaders in place? How good they are developing leaders and teams to continue to grow that business? So that's how we kind of answer that second question when they're, maturing as a business and growing and doing well, how we try and find ways to continue to add value.
So I want to take our remaining minutes here to talk about sort of the growth of the franchisor. I think when a little bit earlier in the interview, you had indicated that when you came on with the business, there was about 5 franchisees, and now I think you have north of 27. And you're looking to get to cross the 100 unit mark here at some point. Do you have a bunch that are signed that haven't opened yet, or are you guys still filling that pipeline?
We haven't. We're filling the pipeline. We began working with a company called Raintree to do outsource our franchise development. They have a successful track record of helping brands grow, and we interviewed them and they interviewed us. It seemed like a good fit. And so we're excited to kind of turn that over to them. They have a proven track record of helping brands grow. So we're kind of turning that over to them. And then we're just making sure we have the internal resources in place, as that growth comes, to continue to support our franchisees. So, the franchisees, when we have 100, feel like they did when we had 10 or 15, that, there was that personal attention, and that, the team here at United Water has a personal vested interest in their success. And we want to make sure we continue that. So that's what we focus on, and we leave the development up to Raintree. So they're in the process of building the pipeline. We have a lot of discovery days lined up, and people in the pipeline who are ready to go. And that's what we're excited about.
Well, it's interesting. I've heard of Raintree. Again, somebody else mentioned that to me. I don't know that much about. I know what they do, but that's interesting. Obviously there's businesses out there to help grow that model. Talk about how you've worked with several systems. You've worked with very large systems and now growing systems. I mean, obviously, your growth is expanding, and that's a good thing. Talk a little bit about challenges that you faced, as you come over to an emerging franchisor that now has experienced some pretty good growth and is looking to grow even more into the future. What have been some of the challenges that you faced, and how have you overcome those?
That's a great question. And I would say without a doubt, resources, right? So when I worked with Dunkin' Brands, we had 1,100 corporate support people, 600 spread out across the U.S. supporting franchisees in the marketplace and things like that. And, at Domino's, that was another large company. When you come here, it's like a startup. So, I have 6 people on my team. So when we are doing things like, for example, we're planning our next franchise conference down in New Orleans in May. Well, that rests on my teams and my shoulders to do. Well, we have our day jobs too, right? Like we have 2 franchisees that just came out of training. One is opening today. The other one opens on a week from today. So there's a lot going on, and we have, a very small team, so we have to kind of multitask and be really diligent with our time. But that's probably one of the biggest challenges we face. The good news is that, our owners are, come to it with deep pockets, and they're willing to invest. And, we're already having discussions about, who are the next 2 key hires I need to pull the trigger on as we get ready for the next wave of growth.
So if I talk to you 2 years from now, if I'm talking to you 2 years from now, what's your definition of what success is going to be for United Water Restoration Group 2 years out from now?
For starters, the 27 that we have are growing and continuing to do well. The ones that we brought on in the interim have had, strong starts, and just system-wide, we have good financial economics down to the franchisee level. That we built a successful team. We've kept the the best qualities of our culture right now internally, and have added to that with great people. If we can accomplish those things, I think it'd be a huge, huge win and set us up for the next 5 years after that.
Well, to learn more, go to unitedwaterrestoration.com. That's unitedwaterrestoration.com. There's information on there about franchising, their services, and about the history of the brand. Thank you, Bob, for coming on and really sharing that. It sounds like a really exciting opportunity for you, and I really appreciate you sticking in this franchise world for so long. Hopefully, you'll do it for a while longer.
Well, I truly enjoy it, and thank you very much for your time today, Josh. I enjoyed being on your podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed it, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. It really helps to get this show out to more and more people. Also, if you have any questions, have ideas for guests or topics, please email me, josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. That's josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. And finally, please note that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes and is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be any kind of legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice, please contact a lawyer. Have a great one. Happy franchising.